Hi everyone, welcome to Dave's Bonsai. On today's episode, that maple tree needs a new pot. Welcome to Bonsai Acres. Welcome everyone outside the PSGF on a glorious spring day. The sun is out and it is my first repot outside of the season on the 27th of March. That's pretty cool. Things are waking up in the PSGF, a lot of greenery and some red color in there with that maple of mine. And I'm ready to do a repot right out here. Now, why am I doing this repot? This is another tree that I got from my friend Michael, and Michael is going to be leaving to Colorado soon, and he dumped a whole bunch of trees on people, so I purchased a couple from him, and this one is fun. It is another Trident Maple that has a beautiful nabari. So let's check out the tree, let's get it into a new pot, and soak in some vitamin D. My Trident Maple is still in the cold frame in the garage, but it'll soon be coming out if I can make room in the PSGF. It's so loaded in there that I don't have a lot of room, so I have to be careful what I do. So we're gonna go ahead and get this thing out of the pot and see what Michael has for us here. So as I've said often on the show, we need to repot trees, one, when it's the right season, when there's lack of percolation, right? And we know the water's not going through. Maybe there's an issue with the tree we think we might repot. And I keep saying on the show that we repot when the tree is new to us. Well, this tree is from Mr. Michael Knoll, a good buddy of mine from the club, and he is no longer the owner of this tree. And he maybe repotted it last year. But whether he potted it last year or a couple years ago, this is the Trident Maple, and they grow roots ferociously. And so I'm gonna go ahead and see what it's all about. And here's a good example for you of the ferocity of the roots of a Trident Maple. All right, that's gonna be fun. So get these wires out of here, and we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna get this thing repotted. With Trident Maples in the beginning, during developmental stage, you really can repot these things every year. You may not want to, you may want to wait for the 2 years, but they grow so fast, the roots, that we're usually in good shape to go ahead and repot it. This hasn't been repotted, I don't think, for 2 years maybe. I don't think he repotted it last year. Looking at the top of the soil with some of the breakdown of the Akadama that he's using. Usually he used Akadama pumice lava rock like many of us in the club. It's broken down enough where I don't know if it was repotted last year. He'd have to correct me on that. But the roots are really coiled around the bottom there. So I think that we have a good reason to repot and check out the root structure, cut it back and let it grow. You'll notice on the tips of these leaves that there's very few buds that have started to open and elongate. We've got a couple little ones here. This biggest one right there, we are in a prime spot to get this thing repotted before it is too late. And of course, when we talk about things being too late for repotting, that's always with the caveat that I could slip pot this time of year if I wanted to just kind of just break up the soil a little bit and see what the roots are looking like, and then just not cut any roots and put it into a new, bigger pot. We could do that if the leaves were too far along. So there's always things we can do. Look at this root system. You can't even see the screen. He used a screen on this, and you can't even see it. It is so covered in roots. So we're going to chop away at this thing, and we'll see what we got. Look at that screen, and look what's on the other side of the screen. All of these roots going through the screen. I cannot even come close to nudging this screen out yet. So we really have a lot more picking away at this thing. Then I'll start cutting some roots so we can get this screen out of there and refresh this into a new pot. When you have this many roots on the bottom of a tree, you just have to get in there with the scissors at some point and start loosening up some of those connection points and where it's growing through the screen. This is so many roots. And that is very, very typical for a Trident Maple. So if you don't have yourself a Trident Maple yet, and you want to see some ferocious growth, that's what I recommend. And I can tell you with 100% certainty right now that I am so glad that I took this on today. Because if I would have said, hey, let's just wait a year, the tree looks good, it's probably got another year in this pot. Oh, no, 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 no. We need to clear this out, and we need to cut back roots. And we can cut them back hard on a Trident Maple so we can get that new flush of growth down here in the root system and up above. A couple episodes I talked about the soil debate a little bit, and I talked about how I went to Akadama and pumice, and got a lot of great feedback from people. And the one thing that stood out, and the one thing I'm glad a couple people responded on, is that, hey, you do what works for you in your microclimate, the materials you have access to, you go ahead and use it. I by no means will ever tell someone not to use something. I'll always say in my workshops, and I'll always say here on the channel, I will always say to your face, if I'm with you side by side, hey, you do what works. You do you, and tell me the results, and maybe you'll convince me to try lava rock more again. I'm seeing a lot of lava rock in this mixture from Michael, so he had a fair amount of lava rock in here, but also the Akadama and some pumice. Am I going to mix it up a little bit? I sure am. I'm just going to put a little bit less lava rock. I have some leftover lava rock that appears in some of my blends and has a few places it shows up. So we'll see how my tree responds now. Now, even though it's only in the 50s today, that sunlight coming right down on me and my tree is creating a little bit of some tips on this that could dry out, right? So I'm going to go ahead and give this a dunk in the pond real quick, and then we'll come back and continue our work. It looks like Michael used chopsticks to hold down this in the repot. He doesn't need chopsticks anymore. Holy moly, this is an amazing root structure. So the challenge for me in bonsai still is this. My Trident Maple, and this one now, my new one from Michael, has a phenomenal nabari. The swelling at the bottom of this tree is quite nice. If you can see that now, the nabari around that tree. There's hardly a weak point on this tree. This tree is worth every penny that I paid for it because of the trunk alone. And if I sell this tree down the road and continue the story with the next chapter with someone else, what they pay for this tree will, I hope, but it will be totally worth it to them because you are paying for the nabari in the bottom part of your tree. Now, I may never sell this one. I might sell my other one, and I might continue this journey and put that other journey of the other tree to someone else. Like in the tree swap I just did with my good friend Steven from Indianapolis. Sometimes, you know, you have to back away from your tree and really take some time. And I think this challenge with Steven is going to be a blast. I don't care what he does to the tree, to be honest. I hope he just goes for it and maybe chops one of the trees off, makes it a twin trunk. Maybe that new growth will turn into another third trunk. I mean, who knows? And maybe a fresh set of eyes is really all our trees need once in a while. So show your trees. Bring your trees to the club. Have them give their opinions. Remember, it's their opinion. You don't have to do anything they say. Make sure you get your skin a little bit thicker before you do that. And just see what they have to say. See what they're going to bring to the table. Just look at that root spread, everybody. This is what we're going for. When we talk about going from thick to thin, from our trunk to the tips, the roots are the same thing. We've got some nice thick nabari down here forming, and then it goes to a little bit thinner root, and then a thinner to these really fine feeder tips, and that's what we want on our tree, all the way throughout, all the way around the tree, 360. And this This is a specimen to behold. I'm glad I'm filming this one. I almost didn't film this one. I thought I would just enjoy the sunshine and do a repot. But this is really exciting to show. Now, I can't take any credit for this Nabari. I can't take any credit for this root system. That all goes to Mike and his development of this tree. So kudos to Mike. Thank you, sir. And this is a testament to some great care. Taking care of this tree, repotting it when he had to, and putting it in good soil and a good tree. That's another debate people have, you know. Quit buying cheap material. If you want to up your game eventually down the road, you might have to consider starting to buy some nicer material. And I'm for that, but I'm also for you taking anything you want and turning it into a bonsai. You've got something growing in your backyard, a yard of dory, you go ahead and dig it out of there and you start making a bonsai and it costs you nothing. I am okay with that, and you do not have to spend hundreds of dollars on material. But a lot of professionals will say, a lot of people will say, you know, if you really want to up your game, and this is something Jonas might talk about at the expo. I'm going to ask him some questions about your trees and your collection, and he's going to have a response something like this, I predict, because of what he's shared already. Your collection is as good as the last tree or the trees you have in it, the trees you bring into it, what you bring into your collection. You know, if you're bringing stuff that's, you know, got a long way to go, not terribly developed, and just kind of sticks in pots, as we joke often, you know, that's your collection. And so maybe instead of having 100 trees like I have around this mayhem of a garden and a PSGF, and focus on maybe a dozen or two trees. So as you get further into the career, yeah, or the hobby, I should say, maybe it's time to downsize. And I'm thinking about that tremendously this year as I spend more and more time up at Bonsai Acres and getting that established. Yeah, I might not have all of this time for the next couple of years to spend on so many trees. And so some of the trees, maybe in other people's hands, are just going to be better for me, better for the tree, and better for the new people that get that tree to maybe turn it into something special, because I just didn't have the time to do that. Will that fit in there? It fits in there with a little bit of room to grow, so we will cut it back further. Now, my other option is I have this dark blue pot from my friend William, and right now that thing doesn't even have a chance to get in there, but it's a little bit deeper pot. But I'd put a layer of bigs on the bottom, and then I'd put this and raise it up high. The Nabari on this tree might fill up this pot brilliantly. So I have to cut it back and I have to make that decision. It's going to go back into the oval, or it's going to go into that beautiful dark blue pot. Now, with that in mind, we know right away that we have to cut some of these roots off to even come close to fit in a different new pot. And as I mentioned earlier, in my time working with Trident Maples, you can cut back these trees so ferociously. As a matter of fact, there's an infamous picture of one of my Trident Maple that I have shown with my time with Peter T. And we cut that thing back down to nothing. And then it grows back this many roots in a couple of years. I can go very, very aggressive on this cutback, and I'm starting slow, seeing how this shape is gonna go down, thin out, and look at we have a 2-inch thick root structure here. So we can cut some of the stuff on the bottom, making sure things are gonna keep flat. I think it's a pretty cool pot for this tree. I think I might go for it. When you have a root system that's this developed, a profile prune is fairly easy to do. I just profile this into a circle here because this pot is a little bit wider than most rectangles, and so it's going to fit all the way around this pot pretty well. So that's getting close. And it'll have plenty of room to grow in there. And of course, we could always put it back in here, and it would also show the beautiful Nabari because it's a shallow pot, but I'll raise it up in that pot a little bit. Okay, again, I've got some roots that are coming down here, and this root in particular, it's getting real kind of chunky right there. So I want to get that. So that almost looks like a claw. It's clawing. So we'll get some more growth in that area and hopefully just get a root or two, but not too many. This one has also going up. I'm gonna cut that root off. There. Now it just lays a lot better in that area. Gonna get some shadows in the sun now, but it's just gonna lay better in that area. This is pretty tight in here. Dark blue pot, put it in right there. Bigs on the bottom. I'll get a little less swirly round and round from the shallow pot. And I think that fits in this pot very, very well. And then when you get the beautiful green foliage on here. So we are close. We are close to putting this thing in the pot. So I'm gonna meander around this thing one more time. And I'm gonna find some more upward roots that are just kind of in my way, growing up and I don't want them to grow up. Everything's growing out and it's gall, you know, and a lot of the reason why some of these roots are growing up is because they can't go down because the root mass is so thick. We have some Akadama pumice and a little bit of lava rock in the Bigs collection here. And so the Bigs go in the bottom. I don't need this deep of a pot for this tree quite yet. Now it is close to 2 inches down here and this is about a 3-inch pot. So as this gets to be a 3-inch tree, it'll be really good for this pot. So it's gonna grow into this pot. But I'm gonna go ahead and get this thing going. And not that maple trees need this, but I'm gonna put a little bit of starter fertilizer in here. That'll get mixed up in the process. It's a good thing to use. And there we go. So there it's fitting in the pot pretty scrumptiously. We can see the Nabari. It's all on that small soil, and we'll put small soil on top now. So now we can just go ahead and wire this thing in. So where I have the wires, I'm not going to be worried about any of the roots. None of the roots that are exposed, I don't think will be hit with any wire. And so we're going to give this a good twist on. And then a good twist down. Bend down that extra wire, and that's pretty solid in there. Now this one has a few more roots that I'm concerned about. I have a little bit of kind of your fish tank grade plastic tubing, so I'm going to go ahead and put that on the wire here. And this might be exposed and it might not be as pretty, but we're going to protect the surface of this Nabari for when we raise it up next time a little bit higher. And then we bring these two pieces of wire together with a little bit of inner tube on there, or air tubing I should say. And we're gonna grab this, and I always lift up on my wire and then twist. Lift up to pull it tight down underneath as best you can, and then you're gonna twist it right onto the Nabari in this case. I'm gonna go ahead and cut this extra off here, so it's not quite so much of an eyesore. And we're gonna tuck that in. And this pot, this tree, is in this pot super ferociously. Now, this is one of those trees where you really have to mound up your soil before you put it in. When you mound that soil in your pot before you tug it in, you see how wide of a nebari I had and wide root base, and it's all flat down there, and you're just going to scrunch it all in there to get all those nooks and crannies covered. I don't mean the bulge of soil here, I just mean down below. And then when you go ahead and tamp down, there's not a whole lot of tamping going on except for the edges on this tree because there's so much thick roots going on. But you just keep tamping, see where you can reach that chopstick in there, wiggle it around a little bit so that soil gets way in there. And when you thought you had a big mound of soil, all of a sudden you have a perfect amount of soil and you won't even be shaving any off like I thought I maybe had to, right? Here we go. We're rolling up the sleeves. Now, some of this is gonna float. Oh, look at the powder just going away. The water's soaking up from the bottom right now. Here we go. All the air bubbles are coming up. Not too bad, not too bad, not too dirty. If you go too fast, you lose all your soil, especially the pumice. It floats a lot more. Getting some more of that dusty, dirty soil out of there. Gives the pot a nice clean off right here. Let's go take a look at it. There we have a Trident Maple ready to be on the bench and do some growing. Now, I cut this and I cut this up here. We've got buds growing down here, here, here. This will be super thick, super fast this year if I let nothing happen. Now this is a little bit of a weird junction. I did trim that a little bit and put some cut paste on earlier. And so that's kind of a weird, bizarre thing, but what I'm gonna go for is this branch in the back. I was hoping this back in the branch would be alive. And though you can't see from a far distance over there, we have a new bud in the back right at the base of this branch and this bud right here, and these two are viable right there ready to pop out. So this will grow into a nice thick branch and I'll trim this down. So then this will become a primary branch off of the trunk line, which will kind of smooth this way a little bit. It's a pretty straight tree, so I don't want anything massively curvy, but we'll go ahead and keep that. We might get rid of this branch at some point, but we're gonna see what grows. Buds here, buds there, the big branch right there, bud right here, buds at the tip, buds here, buds at all the tips. This is ready to go. We had a little damage on this back branch, but we're just gonna leave it alone, let this thing grow and shoot out. There is a bud at the base of this branch. Down here and here, there's two buds, so if this doesn't survive, those two will down there, and we'll still have a branch coming out there. And again, these back bud profusely, they grow profusely, so we're gonna let this thing shoot up and heal. This branch is a little thick right now, and I wanna slow it down. So I don't know which of these branches I'm gonna keep. I'm gonna see what grows back here this spring, and then I'll make some decisions early on, and then let this thing shoot out all year. So there we have the new potted maple tree. A Trident in a dark, dark blue pot. We got rid of a ton of roots. We can still see the exposed nebari, a little bit of that plastic tubing, but we can put a little moss over this if we want to, or just know that it's gonna be a pretty tree down the road. I'm not gonna show this tree anytime soon. So there we go. If I give it a good 360 spin for you, there is the proposed back at the moment. And there's that major branch coming at you there. And then we're gonna be back to what we think is the front. I put this one a little too close to the center. I should have gone a little bit more to my right, your left. But again, it's transition. We'll let it grow in this pot and then we'll reposition it in another year or two after we see how it grows. Time to put it back in the PSGF. So take care of you, take care of your bonsai. Happy spring, everybody. This is the best time of year. We'll catch you on the next one. Welcome to Bonsai Acres.